Most men walk into interactions with women believing that connection is built through words. The more they share, the closer they'll become. They open up about their dreams, their past heartbreaks, their daily struggles, thinking vulnerability will create intimacy. But somewhere along the way, they notice a shift. The more they talk, the less she leans in. The more they explain themselves, the quicker her interest fades. It feels backward because society tells men to communicate, to express, to be emotionally available. Yet, in practice, oversharing doesn't deepen attraction, it kills it. The reason is simple: mystery is the lifeblood of desire. When a man reveals too much too soon, he hands her the entire map to his psyche. There's nothing left for her to uncover, no puzzle to solve, no reason to invest. Women are drawn to what they can't fully grasp, not because they're manipulative, but because feminine energy thrives on emotional contrast. If she knows exactly how you feel, what you think, and where you stand by the third conversation, the tension evaporates. You become predictable, and predictability is the enemy of passion. This isn't about playing games or hiding who you are. It's about understanding that attraction isn't logical. It's emotional. A woman doesn't fall for a man because he gave her a PowerPoint presentation on his virtues. She falls when she feels something in his presence, when his silence leaves room for her imagination, when his restraint makes her wonder what's beneath the surface. The men who linger in her mind aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who made the fewest words count. Think of it like a book. If you spoil every plot twist in the first chapter, why would she keep reading? But if you let her turn the pages herself, if you let her curiosity build, she stay up all night trying to figure you out. That's the power of holding back. That's how you make silence your most compelling language. Man's true power doesn't come from his ability to articulate every thought it radiates from his presence. Imagine two men at a party. One fills every silence with jokes and stories, constantly seeking reactions. The other speaks little, yet when he does, the room leans in. Who commands more respect? Who leaves a lasting impression? Presence is the unspoken currency of attraction. Women don't respond to words alone. They respond to the energy behind them. A man who is comfortable in silence projects confidence, while one who nervously fills the air reveals his need for approval. This isn't about being stoic or unapproachable. It's about understanding that communication extends far beyond language. A glance held a beat too long speaks volumes. A calm, measured tone carries more weight than a frantic monologue. When you choose your words carefully, each one lands with intention. Women are intuitive. They sense when a man's words align with his energy. If you're talking just to fill space, she feels the dissonance. But if your silence is deliberate, if your pauses are charged with unspoken certainty, she instinctively assigns value to what you do say. Doth think of presence as a gravitational pull. The less you say, the more she attuned to your body language, your posture, the way you hold her gaze. These nonverbal cues communicate dominance far more effectively than any boast or story ever could. A man who doesn't need to explain himself is a man who knows his worth, and that quiet self-assurance, it's irresistible. Women don't fall for men who try to convince them. They fall for men who don't need to. Presence isn't manufactured, cultivated through self-mastery. The more grounded you are in who you are, the less you'll feel compelled to perform. And paradoxically, the less you perform, the more magnetic you become. The moment a woman feels she has you completely figured out, the spark begins to fade. It's not about deception, it's about the natural rhythm of desire, which thrives on novelty and the thrill of discovery. Think about how boredom sets in with anything that becomes too familiar. Songs lose their magic after too many replays. Favorite foods become mundane when eaten daily. The same principle applies to attraction. When a man becomes an open book too quickly, when his emotions and motivations are laid bare without effort on her part, her subconscious registers him as solved. And what's solved no longer excites. This is why men who spill their entire history early on, their traumas, their insecurities, even their affections, often find her pulling away. It's not that she dislikes vulnerability. It's that vulnerability without earned trust feels like emotional dumping rather than intimacy. She wants to uncover layers over time, not have them handed to her in one overwhelming delivery. The guy who shares just enough to intrigue but leaves room for questions creates a dynamic where she's compelled to invest, to wonder, to chase. Familiarity might breed comfort, but too much comfort kills tension. And without tension, there's no magnetism. The key is pacing. Let her curiosity work in your favor. When she asks about your past, give her a compelling fragment, not the full documentary. When she probes your thoughts, offer insight but preserve some mystery. This isn't about being cryptic. It's about understanding that anticipation is the sister of attraction. A woman's imagination is your ally. It will always paint a more intriguing picture than exhaustive explanations ever could. The more she has to mentally reach for you, the more she emotionally invests. And that investment, that's where real connection takes root. The most powerful men throughout history understood the strategic value of silence. They knew that words, when used sparingly, become weapons of influence rather than tools of neediness. This isn't about withholding for manipulation. It's about mastering the art of communication by understanding what not to say. Every unnecessary word you utter dilutes your presence. Every over-explanation chips away at your mystique. The man who can comfortably hold silence projects an aura of self-containment that women instinctively find magnetic. Consider how tension works in storytelling. The spaces between words create anticipation. Apply this to your interactions. When she asks a probing question, answering immediately with full transparency kills the intrigue. Instead, pause. Let the moment breathe. A well-timed smirk or a thoughtful, "Why do you ask?" shifts the dynamic, putting her in the position of having to qualify her curiosity. This subtle power exchange makes her work for your attention rather than handing it over freely. The more comfortable you become with these pauses, the more she feel their weight. Your silence should never feel awkward or insecure. It must radiate intentionality. This means replacing nervous chatter with purposeful body language, steady eye contact that says more than paragraphs ever could, a relaxed posture that communicates you're in no rush to fill the air. When you do speak, make it count, not with rehearsed lines, but with observations that demonstrate you're truly listening rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. The paradox? The less you say, the more memorable your words become. Women will forget most of what men tell them, but they'll never forget how a man's presence made them feel. Master this balance, and you'll notice how conversations transform from interviews into experiences that linger in her mind long after you're gone. The foundation of true masculine leadership isn't built on speeches or declarations. It's anchored in quiet, unwavering certainty. Women don't follow a man's words. They follow the energy behind them. When you feel compelled to explain your decisions, justify your actions, or narrate your thought process, you inadvertently transfer power to her judgment. The man who leads doesn't seek permission through conversation. He demonstrates worth through being. Your silence becomes the canvas upon which she projects her strongest attraction. Because feminine energy is drawn to what it cannot immediately decipher, this dynamic manifests most powerfully in moments of tension. When disagreement arises or emotions run high, the instinctive male response is to talk the situation to death, to analyze, negotiate, or plead. But leadership operates differently. A measured pause, followed by decisive action, communicates more authority than 1,000 carefully constructed arguments. She may claim to want endless discussion, but what truly resonates is your ability to hold space without crumbling into verbal uncertainty. Your restraint becomes the emotional container that allows her femininity to flourish, not because you're suppressing expression, but because you're providing the stability that makes her feel safe to express. The highest form of masculine communication isn't verbal at all, it's the unshakable knowing that permeates your being. When you stop using words as crutches for validation, every syllable you do speak carries the weight of conviction. Women don't fall in love with what you say to them. They fall for who you reveal yourself to be in the spaces between your words. The silent strength that needs no explanation, the calm that demands no understanding, this is the essence that transforms interactions from transactions into transformations. Master this, and you'll find her not just listening to you, but leaning into the gravity of your presence.